Okay, Jaydon Blue, young man from Kane High School in Klein, yesterday released on whatever, Twitter or Instagram or both, that he was going to opt out of his senior year of high school. He's committed to Texas. He's a hell of a player. I've never heard of this before. It's the first time, I'm not saying it's the first time, but it's the first time I've seen a high school player say, I'm not going to play. Even during COVID, I don't remember if that happened or not, that somebody said we're not going to play. Maybe they just couldn't play. But Craig, I'm not in his shoes. It's his life, not mine. But what we see now, things are made, then decisions, and they become trends. And the reaction to him, where some was like, oh, this is a thing now, to hook 'em horns and get that. You want to protect him. But what are the different angles of how this affects Texas high school football?
Well, it affects Texas high school football, and then if it unfortunately becomes a trend, you're going to have a lot of good players not playing.
Well, no, what you're going to have a lot of dudes who think they're really good not playing, that aren't as good as they think they are, because helicopter parents and helicopter personal trainers and all these people that get in these kids' heads. Yeah, there's probably somebody out there like, oh, you see what Jaydon Blue did? Like, you might, there's going to be some of that. There's going to be some of that.
The other thing that people like, okay, he's doing is in his mind and his parents' mind and whoever else is, well, this is his best shot not to get hurt playing. He's not going to get hurt playing football. I just tell you, no matter whether you're 18, 28, 38, 48, 58.
Well, 48 and 58.
But I'm just telling you, all throughout your life, you are going to get hurt doing things that you did not intend to get hurt doing.
And how often do scholarships get pulled when you have a serious injury?
Well, here's a couple of things now to think about. You're right, Paul. You can get injured walking across the studio floor. Here's the thing. Could this be a problem for Texas? If, in fact, they're not going to pull his scholarship, he's a great player. What if three other players that are...
Is he going to get better not playing? No, he's not. Is he going to get better for the University of Texas by not playing football for a whole year?
My point, well, I don't know. Maybe he can do that, because we see college players look at Micah Parsons, just got drafted 11th.
But I don't know if he's better at football. And the Big Ten.
But remember when this happened, though?
Forced him into that decision.
Oh, my God. Jerry even said he was kind of backing away from those. Maybe he said that because he knew he wanted Micah Parsons, but he also wanted cornerbacks. There were players that did opt out. Jamar Chase, wasn't he another one? He got drafted early on. So it didn't affect the way, if it's talented and you're good. Me personally, I never had a chance to play anything after high school. Nothing. So it's kind of maybe I'm not the right person. I just hate the fact, I don't hate it. I don't like the fact that your opportunities of what you do in high school are such a big deal for the rest of your life. Those are your high school classmates and teammates. But Texas, if now another player, and this is not an anti-UT thing, but let's say two or three other players go, okay, I'm going to do what Jaydon Blue does. Could this hurt them with the high school coaches?
Let's let that happen first, though. That's an interesting hypothesis, but then that gets us into a tangent of all these things that could happen if a bunch of other things could happen. You know what I mean? So if a couple of other guys join him, then I think it's worthwhile to talk about.
But that's what happened with the bowl games being opted out, right? One guy did it, then 15.
But that's what happened. That's what happened. A bunch of guys did that. Right now, we're talking about one kid. So I don't want to go in this grand, the effects on the university and then subsequently all of college football, because until a second, a third, and maybe a fourth do it, then it's not a trend. It's just one kid. And one thing we're not mentioning is that he's got a history of knee injuries. And that's something that I learned after reading about it last night. Now, do I think that's a reason for him to sit out? No, I don't. Because his knee injury probabilities aren't going to be any less having sat out an entire year and then hitting the field to play Division I college football after having a layoff versus just playing high school football. I would think that actually raises the chances of it probably getting messed up. But I'm not a doctor, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the best way health-wise to protect his knees or whatever the case may be. I think it's incredibly selfish, and if you're looking at it from his high school's point of view. I mean, all his fellow seniors that they grew up talking about winning state titles together and doing this and that, winning district. Well, it doesn't matter to him. He's worried about his college career. I think the most alarming thing to me was I don't mind prospects talking about their NFL dreams, and shoot, they all have them. But the fact that his whole message and his long, drawn-out explanation for why he's sitting out his senior season as though he's the freaking president of the United States and we care about this announcement is the fact that he's talking about the NFL at the end of this. It's like, dude, you haven't even played your senior year of high school football. You're bailing on your team your senior season to prepare for a college career where you might be the next big thing. You might be Adrian Peterson, but you might be Jonathan Gray and Malcolm Brown too. And hey, that means you'll get to the pros one day. Also means you might not be as good as you think you are. So like, there's a lot of what ifs and things involved in this. I think it's selfish, but I also understand it from like a health scare perspective. If you have been somebody that deals with knee injuries, I would be so against this. Seeing this become a trend, I think it's just the most selfish thing possible. And we're talking about freaking high school kids. Like, they already get way too much attention as it is. If we're going to start focusing on these kids acting like they're declaring early for the NFL draft, then I have no interest in this because I'm not going to bow down to some 16-year-old's whim of a decision because of what Urban Meyer said the night before. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, look, the NFL is so far off for you, kid. I mean, it's so far off. I did a thing at MCC one time for Upward Bound, and there was a kid in there, a football player at University High School. He was a sophomore. And one of the people on the panel with me said, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? He goes, well, I'm going to be a pro football player. And he said, look, it's great to have that dream. I'm not telling you not to. But you're talking about the 1%. So, like, what are you going to do while pursuing that dream to make sure that there's a lot of things that can happen to you that would make that dream not a reality? So let's make sure that so that's what it is. You know, you plan for the best. You hope for the best and plan for the worst. And by talking about the NFL right now, there's a billion things that could happen to you and derail you from the NFL. You shouldn't even be like the NFL is a dream, but just like if I was a theater major, being in a movie would be a dream, like being a star of a movie. But I gotta be realistic.
The absolute closest he is to playing in the NFL right now is 4 years away. Mm-hmm. He's 4 years, bare minimum, from playing in the NFL right now. Has not even stepped foot in Austin, Texas, and is sitting out his senior season because of his NFL dream 4 years down the road to protect his knees. And I wonder how much of this is also grades, because he mentions focusing on his schoolwork. Maybe they're terrible. Maybe the only way he gets to Texas is by taking off football to improve his grades.
I understand that, but I believe one of his other options was Stanford. So
then that's completely off the table and is a BS reason. So it's basically his knees in the NFL. That's and I wonder how much did the coaching staff at Texas get in his ear about this?
Good.
Like, is this something they're encouraging? Because if so, then they're the ones that we need to be talking about, because they don't need to be doing that.
Which is why I brought up what I did.
And you're right. And so if we see this continue and that another Texas guy does it, then we can get. I feel like, that conversation would be very valid.
And here's the great part about the coaches at Texas. If they did do this, we can't ask them because they can't answer it.
Yeah. No, they can't talk about it. They can't. But Scott, you can find out, though. Yeah. I'll tell you this. You can find out. And again, we're not making accusations. We're bringing up legitimate possibilities and angles to this story without talking to Jaydon or his high school coach.